All right, everyone. My name is Lycan, and with me, I have a very special guest, Marcus djWHEAT Graham. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, Dan.
Thanks for coming on. I'm glad to have you on. So, what's been going on in djWHEAT's world? What have you been up to?
Well, I've been working on a lot of TwitchCon stuff. So actually, in my role, I'm in charge of pretty much all of the everything that's happening at TwitchCon that's not um yeah just anything that's scheduled basically is my bucket. And we've been recently putting together the different areas of TwitchCon and figuring out what exactly gets scheduled and what content is going to exist in all of these areas. So it's been great. It's been a ton of fun. It's something that I've never done before in terms of put together a convention, but obviously I've been creating content and sort of doing that side of things for a long time. So it's really fantastic because it's just an amazing challenge, and
Mhm.
I look forward to that. So it's been a lot of very, very, very long weeks, as you and I were discussing the other day. So that's kind of what's been up. I mean, I've also moved to San Francisco, which is a big deal, at least for me and my family. It's never easy to move. As a single individual, even with a lot of stuff, it's pretty easy to move. You deal with your own emotional attachments and everything else that goes with it, your routine. But when you've got a whole family, that changes everything. But we've been talking about it for since the moment I joined Twitch, and we finally made it happen at the end of December of last year. So that's been a huge change in my life this year so far.
Yeah, moving's a crazy experience when it's not just you, a car, and you shove everything into the back seat in the trunk and try to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, there's a. So, is there anything exciting about TwitchCon you can kind of fill us in on, or any?
I no, I mean we got some new announcements coming up soon. There is going to be hopefully some new info for everyone, and that's all I'm going to say right
All
now.
right,
But
all right.
it's great. If you imagine that we had this giant square that was just clay, and we're molding it into all of this different stuff, and a lot of thoughts being put into the show as a whole. So I'm really excited about it, though.
Good. Oh, I'm excited to see what comes from it.
Way
Uh,
to try to pry, though. Way to try.
I think I could have tried a little
Did
harder,
you
but
try?
I'll let you know. So let's talk about the first question. The one thing that people are going to come to here and they're going to want to see an answer to. Um, One of the things that got us talking the other day was the video from the late game where Steven and the guests and myself were all discussing people returning for Legacy of the Void, and one thing that got rehashed was the departure of many people from the community. Now
Right.
some people bring up your name with regards to that, and you leaving the community. Some people just say djWHEAT has moved on. Some people just say that you abandoned the community. So I'd like to get from your perspective. I'd like you to discuss the later stages of your career in StarCraft and you leaving the community, and you know that transition to kind of clarify for everyone else, because Day Nine the other day he came out and he kind of gave an explanation about his absence. So I'd like to hear your
Yeah.
sort of.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm glad Sean did. I would, I would say that abandoning, I feel, is a really strong word. Especially coming from or directed towards an individual who, did contribute and or make hundreds of hours of StarCraft content. This is a game I still love. This is the game I watch the most on Twitch. But no doubt I have if you wanted to say I abandoned anything, and I think it's safe to say that maybe I've abandoned casting StarCraft 2. I think that would be, if you're going to go that way, that would be maybe the fairest thing that you can say. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I've been casting esports for a very, very long time. My first international event was back in 2002, and I casted Quake 3 and Unreal Tournament at the World Cyber Games. And in between there and about 2009, I probably casted 20 different games. Not as seriously as I did say a Quake or a Counter Strike or an Unreal, but just a lot of different stuff throughout the years. And StarCraft was the first game that I casted that made me feel as great as Quake did when I casted that. And there was no doubt that even as a newbie to RTS, um, in terms of like the competitive side of it, I was always aware of it. I followed a lot of Starcraft, Brood War, just because I was around it a lot. But the like playing it, like really getting into it and really diving into it, that was something that was new to me, and I was feeling like I was rekindling those same spirits from Quake 3, where I was just like, all I did was eat, sleep, shit, and then play Quake 3. Like that was it. And through in 2009 and 2010, obviously I was still working IT full time, so
Hmm.
I had the ability to go in and cast a lot more, and it was amazing. Like going to MLGs, going to IEM or DreamHack or Red Bull Battlegrounds, like all of this was just incredible, especially considering like the work that I had put into it as a caster. And as most people, I think, know, in 2011, I joined Twitch very early on when there was only about 30 employees or so. And I was focused on pretty much bringing all of esports to Twitch.
Hmm.
And immediately at that time, that's where I had to. Obviously, I was still focusing on StarCraft 2, but I was really making a more conscious effort to be more involved with a lot of other esports because at the time StarCraft 2 was leading the charge on Twitch, but there were also all of these other blossoming esports around it. So you fast forward a little bit. Obviously, I had Live on 3 and Inside the Game and was doing casting, and I would occasionally get involved in other things. I did stream a ton of Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm. But when WCS rolled around, that is probably when I got made the decision for me that I probably was going to start moving away from casting a little bit more.
Hmm.
Obviously WCS kind of took the place of MLG. That was a place where I was casting a lot. Red Bull actually got back into it, but they sort of reeled it in a little bit. And you know how there was that when WCS first dropped, there was sort of that like uncertainty of how exactly everything was going to shake down. MLG did it for a while, and then ESL did the EU for a while, and then it ended up combining. And, like frankly, and I was totally fine with this, but sort of any opportunities for me to cast started to close up a little bit.
Hmm.
At which point, and I was fine with that. I said, I'm going to just focus more on what I'm doing at Twitch.
All right.
And leading into that, then I started getting more involved with Twitch to the point where I was like, I really would like to move to San Francisco so that I can further enhance my involvement in Twitch. Where I was already putting in 40, 50 hours a week. I really was looking to put in more and get more employee to employee interaction than what I was able to do remotely. Like keep in mind I was working from far away,
Right.
so you know as I started to get more involved with that and the content creation of Twitch, I was getting a lot of offers from Red Bull, from DreamHack, from IEM, and unfortunately, like I was having to decline them because either of work-related reasons or because of real life-related reasons. I couldn't go because of family things or whatnot, and so I went through almost an entire 2014 not really casting anything, and I was fine with that. I was okay with that. But really, it was my investment with Twitch that got me out of most esports and, excuse me, out of most of my StarCraft and
Hmm.
into more esports as a whole. So, like I guess to like circle back and answer your question, like that's probably where the abandonment happened. But then of course there's probably the other perception like in which is like, well, where have you been on the subreddit then? Like why haven't why didn't you continue inside the game? And I think like that almost has a completely different answer. Partially because obviously if I'm not like making it my forefront, I would take a little bit of a step back, but a lot of it also has to do with just sort of the direction in which a lot of the community voice has gone. And I mean, make no mistake about it. Like in a lot of cases, all the players, the personalities, the casters, like they've all been in the crosshairs. And after a while, that it gets a it you know it gets a little rough.
Hmm.
Um, it was probably a welcome sort of silent exit, if you want to call it that, more than anything. But like, I don't, I keep playing. Like, I watch more StarCraft than any other game on Twitch. Like, just because I'm not in the subreddit arguing or responding doesn't mean that I have lost the passion that once burned. Like, my frequency in casting should not be an effective measure of what I think about this game. Because even if you take away all that shit, I'm still going to sit down in this chair, load up a stream, and enjoy watching some StarCraft 2. Or and when Legacy of Void comes out, play that game.
Hmm.
And I guess this kind of goes into the whole cash grab thing, because I think it's pretty ludicrous overall. But did I answer your first question? Because I don't want
Yeah.
to just change it. If
No, no, no. That's you definitely answered the first question, so we have a good understanding. I guess it wasn't just, oh well, StarCraft Two's dead game, no money, gonna go elsewhere. It was, you had investments,
Well, let's
and
talk about the money thing,
yep.
because I think people actually believe that that was some sort of motivation behind me. Like, can I just make it perfectly clear? I was never involved in StarCraft 2 for the fucking money. Let me tell you where my money comes from. It comes from Twitch. It's very simple. I work full time for them. I was an early employee when Twitch was acquired. It was put in a good place. I had a second company acquired by Amazon in 2014 as well. That's where my money comes from. I never was in it ever for the money, and it hurts more than anything that people think that that's your true motivation behind it. And I'll tell you a story. I wanted to cast StarCraft so badly that I went to MLG and I said, hey guys, if you let me come out to DC, I'll just pay my way out, I'll get a hotel room, I'll cast for you guys. I just want to cast at one of your events. And that's how I got into the MLG circuit. Like, I wasn't looking at this going like, "Oh man, Lycan, I'm going to be swimming in gold coins." And maybe some people do, and good for them. Like, people got to make a living, whether that's flipping burgers, or that's, being a lawyer or a doctor or a streamer or a player or a person who makes content around a video game. Like,
So where
I
does that? So I think where that perspective comes from is there is a very obvious decline in the viewership in StarCraft Two from the Wings of Liberty to now. Things have declined, and I think a lot of people associate the leaving of certain personalities and certain players. Uh, they associate that with money. Do you believe that's where that perception comes from?
It might be the case, like, in that for some individuals, a lack of money in the space. Because I mean, even if you use myself as an example, again, I was not motivated by this. Like, did I make less money in 2014 because of WCS and the fact that MLG wasn't doing a circuit? Yeah, absolutely, that was the case. For me, it didn't matter. Maybe for other people it did matter, and so they had to take a different track. If that is the case, I can't really fault them, because I understand in the world of content creation, like, there are trends. No game is around forever. If I would have started at my casting career and said, Lycan, I'm only ever covering Quake 3, ever. And that's it. That's going to be my career. Where would I be? Where would anyone be? So I understand that people might feel like money was a motivator for people to leave. If that's the case, you know, we can talk about then what that means if someone is to come back. But for me personally, and what I believe is many others, I don't think that that's necessarily the case. I'm not sure that StarCraft 2 was ever a huge pile of money bags, like spilling money for people to pick up. So, I feel like this is a community perception that's been painted. Um,
Yeah,
I, that's my thought.
the community.
Yeah, I believe. I mean, like, and I will say an unpopular phrase here, or an unpopular statement. I think that More the reason why people might have chosen to take a step back is for those types of perceptions and other types of perceptions that the community has projected onto um, personalities and players and casters all alike. I mean, that has definitely not helped the situation.
One thing I can agree with that, and let's move towards the community itself. One thing we discussed the other day is how quick to judgment and how certain opinions can get swept up and can explode and mushroom, get really big. And one thing I'd like to know is you were very heavily involved in StarCraft 2. You were a very big part of the community. Now you've departed, but you still maintain connection not only through your personal love and passion, but through Twitch. So I'd like your perception of the community as a whole now that you're on the outside and seeing where StarCraft is.
I mean, StarCraft is probably one of the hardest games to actually compare to other games as well. So when you look at it by itself, you know, and we were talking about it before the show just a little bit, where I was like, I'm starting to try to figure out now what is the current community's measure of success, right? Like, if you're going to compare StarCraft 2 to the other games that are on Twitch right now, and I guess, like, where StarCraft 2 is a top 10 game, it has been, dipping down. Okay, it's top 10 right now as I look at it. But you've got the other competitive games that are sort of at League of Legends, Counter-Strike, Dota 2, Hearthstone, and that's about it. Occasionally a fighting game gets up there and has competition with it. So, like, by that measure of success on a site that gets 100 million uniques a month, StarCraft 2 continues to like float in like the top 15 games, let's just say, to be safe about it, all pretty much all the time. What I see is still a very dedicated community that, despite ups and downs and restructuring of leagues and some organizations doing tournaments and then stopping tournaments and others, restructuring and organizations straight up starting up and dying like IPL and NASL, like StarCraft 2 community should be pretty proud of themselves that they have survived through as much shit that has been thrown at them overall. Like, how many failed up and down League of Legends leagues were there? Not few many. In fact, none that I can even think of aside from, like, say, maybe shared with IPL. But when it looks at like LCS, it's hard to see anything that's going to fail. So, like, StarCraft 2 has kind of lived through a lot more than what some of these other games actually have. So for that reason, I certainly understand that people see the decrease in the in the numbers overall and say, like, this game is dead and it has failed overall.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the perception from that point is that I feel like in a lot of cases, like, and again, I know I'm going to get some heat for this, but a lot of times it feels like the community is just sort of raining this down on themselves. And I've been guilty of that in the past, and I think everyone involved in some case, way, shape, or form has been guilty. But I don't know. Like, the perception is that StarCraft is still a very popular game. I don't think anyone at Twitch, other than a dead game joke, which again came and stemmed from, sort of the community and everyone within it. No one at Twitch looks at it and goes like, yeah, like, I wonder how many more days it's going to be till StarCraft 2 falls off. What I really hope, Lycan, is that Legacy of the Void brings that community, like, it hits them with a shot of adrenaline. And, you see the surge that people want to see,
Mm-hmm.
and the community sort of like irons everything out. I don't know. I think the perception of the community overall is that StarCraft has this really strong and loyal community. I think, like, from my being in the community and having left, I feel like StarCraft is very strong and loyal community, but I feel like they can also be, like, very cruel and degrading sometimes to themselves. And that to me was something that never quite made sense.
So do you believe that? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the behavior of the community and all that. It seems like there isn't enough participation of community leaders in the community when these big discussions. For instance, let's talk about winter. We don't have to go into the details of winter, but with that, it was very much a thirst for blood with Winter and the community discussion around that, and anything they could latch onto, they were very eager to get to it. But there seemed to be very few community members stepping in to give their opinion in general, but even less calling for some sort of decorum or objectivity or a less violent reaction. Winter is an extreme and polarizing example, but we see that very, very often. Anytime that something can get to the top of the subreddit for drama purposes.
Sure. So, like, and let me ask you. I mean, you're a level-headed individual. Like, what would you have liked to see? Not naming names, but just say, like, if a large community member would have come out and said X, it would have made the situation better. And then I would love to know, like, how does that then improve the situation in the community? I'm just curious.
I think that what should have happened, and there should have been a lot of green check marks flooding to these different discussion threads. And I think that what they should have been saying is, hey, sure, evidence was presented. Let's go a little further, because the reality of the evidence presented is it wasn't enough. Some things could be faked. Some things could be skewed. There are certain aspects that someone probably from your end is the perspective at Twitch, where there are certain data points that we don't understand. All we have is just like the MMR system for the ladder.
Sure.
All we have is what we've kind of figured out. We don't know everything. So
yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Like, so what I would say is that then a person will sit there, let's say this green checkmark person sits down and they begin to type something up, and regardless of the information that is within that particular post, it actually will create some sort of rift further within the community towards them. No matter, like, right? If they take a side, then there is a rift. If they defend, even if they defend with some sort of, counter evidence or something, I mean, I would say that probably there's a lot of casters, personalities, etc., that are sitting here going, what value is this going to bring to me and the community for posting this?
You as an individual, probably very little. But if there's if there's substantial community participation from the leaders in these topics, it's a little harder to just look at, let's say that, you posted, right? And you had your opinion. Let's say you posted and people dissented against you. But if it's you and 10 other pros or personalities sitting in there, it's a little harder to take that illogical stance against just objectivity. We're not even talking about, actually, no, he's innocent because of X. We're talking be objective is the argument. I think it's a little harder to do that when you have more community leaders taking action.
Yeah, I don't, I don't know really. I don't know really what to say, whether it's the winner situation or whether it's other situation. I mean, I think the winner situation actually is like a bit awkward, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, let's say it's a cheating situation. If it's a cheating situation, you're probably going to get a lot more community, you know, like backing from the leaders.
Mm-hmm.
But in this situation, like, who had all the facts?
Right.
Not, in fact, I'd argue that no one in all of the party has all the facts, unfortunately. But, like, maybe that's a more difficult thing to actually comment or take a side or even want to get involved in.
All right, let's go with, I have one that I was actually involved in. So there was a player who is notorious for being very BM on ladder, right? And the player played another individual, and this individual took the comments that he made, took them to Twitter, posted them, the very common response to certain things that happen in game or just, in private chat. He takes it to Twitter and demands retribution from Blizzard for it. He tags Blizzard in the tweet. And what I said to it was, hey, how about you message him offline and discuss this rather than going for the throat for his career, bringing this stuff public. And I received a lot of flack from several pros and personalities. And then I had a team manager who I'm friends with. He messaged me offline and he said, hey, don't defend that individual. And I'm like, I wasn't. What I'm defending is him handling this, what I believe to be childish, instead of, taking it. And then he told me, he says, well, that's the only way to get a response from Blizzard, because we do report these issues offline and they don't do it. So now this is what we do. And what I wonder is, where were the team leaders, where were the pros, and where were the personalities going to Blizzard as a whole, as a collective, and saying, hey, we're powerful individuals in this community, we drive your product, we need you to fix this to make our lives and our gamers' lives better. and with a
Yeah,
little bit of
I
pressure.
mean, I think you make a great point, and I don't know whose responsibility that lies in. Does it respond? Does it is it lie? Is the accountability in the community leaders' hands? Is the accountability also on Blizzard's side to make sure that there's a liaison so like these issues can be brought? I mean, I think that in this particular situation, like you were right on. I think that, I mean, I think in general, like there's a lot of things that are aired, publicly that kind of make me like shake my head a little bit because I'm like, people, there's still business behind all this. There's still reputations. There is still people trying to make careers out of some of the things they're doing. So that's a bit daunting sometimes. But I think you're right. I don't disagree. Like in especially in cases like that, I do feel like there should be, um, an active channel open. Admittedly, I've never worked in a community that has been able to have that effective communication channel open, whether that be Quake, whether that be really, even the Blizzard titles. And this stems everything from things that need to change in the game to balance to, things happening within the community.
Hmm.
I wonder if there's, one out there. So maybe that's where StarCraft Two's community, because like we all know the StarCraft Two community is actually amazing at something, and that's like just getting shit done.
Hmm.
When they put their minds to it, they're gonna get the shit done. So like maybe now is the time to just say, Blizzard, we want to create this committee and we want you to be a part of it, and we want to actually have something that will let us as a community effectively report things of issue to us, to you. Like give us the voice. Give us that town hall, if you will.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
I think that's exactly it. And I think that that could work. There is absolutely no reason. Yeah, I think that the community leaders, if you have built yourself, like me, I'm still very very small in this totem pole. I'm very low, but I'm growing. And as I grow, I realize that people start to listen. And when people start to listen, I owe it to the people who do support me, who do support my work, and who have built me up to where I am. I owe it to them to give back. And if that means that I need to put my neck on the line to say, hey, what you're doing is wrong, or hey, maybe we should try this, or to go to Blizzard and pester them and say, hey guys, maybe you should look at this, and gather up a few other people to come along with me. In a way, it's a way of saying thank you to those who have supported me, and it's a way of saying, hey, I care about you more than just my own, I guess, what I want to get out of this. I want to get you a better result from everyone involved in this community.
amongst all of the arguments and debates and everything that's ever happened about StarCraft 2 and the competitive scene and esports and Blizzard, there's been one thing that no one has been able to disagree with, and that is that they just would wish that they had a bit more transparency with Blizzard. And I think that something like that would go a long ways into trying to help build something towards that. And maybe that's exactly what the community and the game needs, especially as it goes into the third expansion and who knows what beyond that. Uh, yeah, I mean, I think something like that would be amazing. I would be thrilled to see something like that actually happen. And
Yeah.
maybe again, maybe that'd be something that would be very satisfying to the community overall.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely want to see a little more participation from the other members of the other leaders of the community as far as that. I think liaising between Blizzard is a huge part of that. For instance, the ladder changes. There was a lot of misunderstandings between the community and Blizzard, and I give a lot of deference to. I say that Blizzard, in many cases, the community overreacts, which it overreacts to a lot of things, and I think Blizzard is one of those things. And I think they could have, and I think that if some more people than just those who post in the Reddit threads had pressured, we might have been able to get some answers a little faster. Just as a small example of that, it took them a few days and a lot of grumbling before we actually heard something. But looking at the community now and where we stand to go, how do you feel about the state of StarCraft itself? So not the community, but the state of StarCraft as a game. The dead game is very often trumpeted by a lot of dissenters. Is it a dead game, or is it far more alive? What is your perspective from both a business and a viewer's perspective?
So I mean, God, my thoughts on this have changed a lot, and I don't know where this is going to go. So we just butt in at any time.
Yep.
But you know, StarCraft is like, all StarCraft is in and of itself is a bit of an experiment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they released the game with the intention that, hey, we're releasing 3 expansion packs. And we at the time, as fans, were like, oh my God, that just means so many years of StarCraft and like 3 different sort of versions and evolutions of the game.
Mm-hmm.
While that was true, what it also meant was that the game wasn't going to get, I think, as much attention as the community wanted it to get, like in between these expansions.
Mm-hmm.
Additionally, StarCraft also went through the whole concept of, Blizzard was supporting it, but they were supporting it through the organizations, and they weren't supporting it with WCS yet. So GSL was kind of leading the charge. Everything that GOM was doing, people were just like blown away. This is amazing. Give us more of this. It was like way ahead of its time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone agrees with that, right? That StarCraft 2, as it is, stands along with like Street Fighter 4 in like in what pushed esports to this like next era.
Absolutely.
Because I still to this day will give it full credit for that. It absolutely deserves that. But let's fast forward, because here we are in Heart of the Swarm, probably the era that people have bitched more than anything about some of the things that have happened. And undoubtedly, even in the slow eras, the Swarm hosts have been like one of the largest impacts on this game overall. Like community's perception, they, not even wanting to watch games, knowing that they were going to walk into like just the ZVP snooze fest. And thankfully, we had a lot of players sort of like mix things up a little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
here we are, out of Heart of Swarm into Legacy of the Void. And what we've seen historically with the other 2 expansion packs, Legacy of the Void should like give StarCraft as a game like a nice little push.
Right.
What I would hope to have happened after that, and this was addressed recently in an interview with the StarCraft folks, it was that, after they're done focusing on creating this huge story around the game, they get to then approach the game simply as a multiplayer competitive game.
Mm-hmm.
So while we're probably not going to get, these ongoing chapters of what's going on between Kerrigan and Rayner, what we might get is these pretty regularly heavy updates that are focusing more on the multiplayer and the competitive side of things, because that's all they really have to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
Is that wishful thinking? It might be. That's what they're telling us right now, according to these interviews. And I would like to think that when you strip away all the other bullshit, and it's like, hey, we just get to focus on this game. I mean, let's look at some of the other games. There's no story around Counter-Strike, so they just make the competitive game better. There's like no comprehensive single player behind League of Legends, so they just continue to release champions and balance and do full designs on the game. Like, this is true about every other competitive game that exists right now, except for StarCraft 2, where we have to wait to find out what happens in Legacy of the Void before Blizzard can truly jump on and like treat this game the way they've treated other games. Now, I know at this point, like, and people are like, here goes Weed again. Like, he's jerking it off of Blizzard, and that's fine. I am an optimistic. I would like to see Blizzard give this a chance, and if they do a good job, go, great job, Blizzard. You did well. And if they don't, at that point, then we get to go into our closets, grab the tridents, grab the pitchforks, get the flaming torches, and then go nuts. People can be angry that the game has shrunk and that it has gotten, there's certainly been some mistakes along the way. But is it all Blizzard's fault? is it all like their fault? Is some of it timing? Is some is the fault of them deciding to make 3 expansions instead of just one and then focusing on a multiplayer game? Yeah, maybe it was. Like, how do you go back and truly fix that stuff? What we can do is we can at least see what happens once Legacy of the Void is hits, and then there are regular, as they say, regular updates to the game.
See, that's
So
where
go ahead.
no, see, that's where you and I are. I'm not good to talk to you to generate discourse because I very much agree with you. I very much take the optimistic approach towards Blizzard. But I think what you're talking about, it does make sense, and it's something that we very much have to hope for. Swarm host being a huge issue. It's been an issue for a long time, and not just the Swarm host, but looking at Blizzard's reaction time to the Swarm host, acknowledging the Swarm host. We are on the verge of next week. Legacy of the Void beta is going to come out, and we just now have a balance patch for the Swarm host being tested. Firecake versus Mana was in late 2013. Last season of WCS, I believe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that was just the sign of the next year to come, and it took very long, and a lot of people talk about League and Dota and all these other people are quick to release, patches, little changes here and there. Blizzard revolutionized balance in competitive gaming. It wasn't thought of before. A lot of people you had your character in Tekken, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, whatever, and if that character, that race and civilization, whatever, if that was overpowered, hey, you were going to win the game, right? Blizzard really did revolutionize balance, and Broodor was a lot of people will come back and they'll say Broodor was greatly balanced or that players adjusted. Regardless of the actual state, they made a conscious effort to do so. And I think with an RTS, it's far more of an art than a MOBA and games like that.
I agree. I mean, like, let's like chat this up a little bit because if you and I are both sort of optimists about it, like, let's talk about the one thing that I brought up in terms of, like, Blizzard is creating a single player game as well as like this multiplayer experience. And there's no doubt there have been a ton of mistakes made along the way, but like, speculate, how much do you think that has played into it? What does a team do who's totally focused on multiplayer versus a team that's like, you have to have this new expansion released by this date? Do you think that there's actually, do you think that there is hope there that is something that would strain a development team to the point of they haven't gotten to focus on it as much as they don't? Because I also don't believe that people at Blizzard are over there going like, yeah, this is hilarious. All this like Swarm host talk. Like, I can't, we'll just troll them some more and keep it in a little bit longer, because like that only on like a planet of madness is that actually happening, right?
I think that's one of the upsetting comments when you see that. When you see someone say, F Blizzard, when you see people just say the most absurd, like, Blizzard gives zero fucks. Like, when, we don't have to go into it, but when Blizzard releases a statement about anything, and it's not the answer that the masses wanted, it's automatically Blizzard doesn't like us. But yes, I absolutely believe that the two fronts, the competitive, the multiplayer, and the campaign, I imagine that those units have to intercross, or there are resources that have to go to one versus the other. So you have a deadline coming up, you have a beta coming up for Legacy of the Void. I imagine there's been a lot of focus on that. Now, at the same time, let's talk about balancing and the extreme effect that making certain small changes and certain big changes has on the game overall. You can throw a balance completely out of whack, ruin the game with a change. I think that's something else that people don't take into consideration. There isn't an army of 1,000 nerds sitting behind Blizzard desks making sure that everything gets done and doing it in 5 minutes. And they're just, well, today only 5 of those 1,000 nerds are coming in, so this is going to take a while. I think that balance is an art, and it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, I mean, I agree as well. It'll be interesting as they come out of it. I mean, the one thing that I also wonder, like how people are feeling, but the drastic changes made to sort of the economy and the worker start, like in Legacy of Void, is that a precursor to what could potentially be coming, with the like with more regular updates as Legacy of the Void and the trilogy concludes, and they can just focus on that? because that's something that we have seen in things like Dota 2 and League of Legends, not so much in like Counter Strike, but we've seen like severe map changes or changes that have like straight up changed the meta of the game. Not suggesting that we need a ton of those,
Mm-hmm.
but to maybe have the freedom to actually do that and work towards that could ultimately, benefit things in the long run. I guess, I just want to say in terms of all this, like, one of the things that makes me the saddest about esports is that we don't have a competitive first person shooter like 1v1 deathmatch. I still think to this day that Quake is like one of the greatest games that was ever made, and it's amazing to watch, and it's so awesome, and the talent behind it's incredible. But you know what I don't want to be really fucking sad about is if there's also not a one versus one RTS competitive game. And so, for that reason, whether it's like working at Twitch or whether you are a full time R Starcraft Redditor or whether you are a streamer or a player or a competitor or a community leader or do things like, I hope that you would at least rally for the game in your own way because I don't want to see another fantastic genre that I love, you know, just kind of
Die.
fizzle up and die.
Yeah.
Because it's like the further we get from Quake, the further I feel like we're getting away from having another one versus one,
Yep.
death match game. And so it just scares the shit out of me. I would never want to see that happen, even for my own entertainment, because I just enjoy watching those competitions on the weekend or whatever. But that's the saddest part of all this to me is that I just don't want to see that happen. So if people think that maybe we're a little bit too wishful thinking, that's some of the motivation behind it. I never want to see a good friend die.
I think that's the crux of this is the community mentality. And to fix that, there are a lot of different ways to go about it. Whether it's new content or whether it is more transparency from Blizzard or it is community leaders participating in creating dialogue, not just waiting for something about them to come up before they make a vlog, but actually seeing something happen in the community, and if they have opinion or they have a middle ground voice, because no one argues for the middle ground. It's either I want this or I want that. If they come in and have that active dialogue, those are things that are overall going to make the community better. To give Blizzard, we give a lot of credit and positivity to Blizzard. Let's go. There are certain things to dissent. There are things that took forever to come out and didn't come out till Heart of the Swarm. There are things that still, we discuss. Hey, are you going to make the multiplayer free to play? Hey, are you going to bring in skins and stickers and any of that stuff that we've seen have a huge impact on making the other esports successful. We bring these topics, and some of these things do not have any feedback from Blizzard. I don't know if they want to keep it a surprise. I don't know if they completely ignore it and they don't care. I think that's the least likely. But there is little, hey, we heard your voice. We keep shouting about it, and there's nothing back. And I think those kind of changes are
Yeah.
definitely going to alter the community.
Yep. I agree. I think that maybe some sort of consolidated effort towards like having that open line of communication. I mean, heck, even if like a Blizzard, and I don't know what the policy is over there, so it might not just be that it's possible, but even like having Blizzard reps, just maybe having a thread every week on, I know they do it on their own forums, but
Mm-hmm.
like doing something also on the our StarCraft subreddit or the other places where StarCraft fans might converge. Um, that could go a long way. So
Yep.
there's definitely effort to be put in on both sides for sure.
All right. Well, I think really at the end of the day, what we just wanted to talk about is we wanted to talk about you first and foremost. Where you've been, what you've been up to. We wanted to talk about the state of StarCraft, the state of the game. What is your perspective? Let's end on a kind of a high note. What is your perspective on the competitive scene right now? Who are you following? Who are you excited about? Who's got your StarCraft excitedness going? Your passion, your hype.
I mean, right now, obviously, I'm always been a Zerg fanboy. So in that regard, I come off of last night pretty happy. In fact, last night is one of those interesting situations. I'm talking about GSL, obviously, where I'm rooting for Life, and I really want him to win, and I fully expect that he can win. And I love Parting; he's a great dude, and he's fun to watch. But like when the first couple games happen, I'm suddenly sitting there going like, dude, like Parting needs to just win some games because I don't want this to be over 4-0, So, I mean, I watched something like last night, and that's watching that actually gets me excited for, what I'm going to be able to watch next week when all of the people are getting access to Legacy of the Void and they're just streaming. And I want to see how this game is going to change. And I feel like something that a lot of people love to play and a lot of people love to watch is going to be new. So as I've been watching StarCraft over the last week or so, and as the announcement came out, to be honest, like all I'm really thinking about is kind of seeing what this is going to mean for the future.
Hmm.
I find it fascinating, and I think it's really exciting that there's actually quote unquote drastic changes to get there. But I mean, the Zergs are who I've mostly been following. I really just continue to enjoy what ESL is doing with all the WCS stuff. So I like their time zones are perfect for for me at work just to even to watch on the side.
Hmm.
Um, so I have not admittedly been watching as many personal streamers
Hmm.
because it just seems like there aren't as many people like personally streaming, and I'm not quite sure why that is. Um,
I'm not too sure from my perspective. I'm no one to watch, just a little Plat League scrub. But I have been streaming a lot more, but not really sure on the overall reason for people to not stream. I imagine though we are going to see a huge resurgence with Legacy of the Void. It's going to happen, and hopefully that some of that becomes residual and sticks around after the fact, once the
I
beta's
really hope
gone.
so too. I mean, I hope that we see a lot of the people that I just loved. Like, I'd love it just if Stefano would come back and stream that. Like I just want him to, just because I always enjoyed tuning into his stream. Shit, man, I want Idra to fire up. Like, I want nothing more than to just watch Greg fucking play. Legacy of the Void because I know it'll be entertaining as shit. Like that's the stuff I'm really excited to be able to watch.
You hear that? Everyone go tell Idra. djWHEAT wants him back. We all want him back. I think a lot of people want him back, but we want those people back, and I think we're hoping for it. At the end of the day, despite the shit tier comments that people make, the angry comments, the emotional comments, I think that's really what it is. It's emotional. People want to see StarCraft live, and
And can I make one other comment about that?
absolutely.
Because like I get it. Like, you know what? Like people can be angry. They can look at it as a cash grab. But like, what if you just take the chill perspective and just like, okay, so what? Like, has the talent that you've been left with, are they so inadequate that like even if these people quote unquote left, you still have these amazing players that have turned into casters, like Todd, like Stefano, like the Muslim, like and you still have Apollo, you still have Nathaniel, like you still have all these great talents that exist to bring you. We still got to see Tastostis last night. Like all that still exists.
Hmm.
If on top of that you also get some additional personalities that may or may not have brought you entertainment at one point, like
Exactly.
is that a bad thing? I did see a thread the other day where someone was like, we need more people playing this game, so I have more to read on the front page. It's like, well, that's kind of hypocritical when the other post is like, no, you're not going to make content, we're not going to watch it, get out of here. It's like, well,
It's like that call to
isn't that?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that what everyone wants? Like, again, I get it. Like if you want to be mad, bro, about it maybe being a cash grab. Like I get it, but at the same time, it is content, and it's like no skin off your back. Like
If anything, we benefit from it.
yeah, I'm not, and yeah, I
No.
don't even believe that like that's really a thing. I
Hmm.
think that people are just is it so crazy to think that people just might be excited about a game. Like admittedly, like when Wasteland 2 came out, I was the biggest jump on the bandwagon little bitch because I loved Wasteland 1. But you know what? People could have sat there and accused me of being a jump on the bandwagon little bitch because I didn't play Wasteland religiously for the 20 years leading up to the sequel. Like I just don't see it that way. Like people are going to get excited about something, especially if they poured their heart and soul into content at one point or another.
Hmm.
I would hope that people would clearly understand the intentions behind others and not just like project and paint their own pictures. But, for that reason, I feel like a lot of the people that have said, hey, I'm really excited to make some content for this game are just people who are generally excited to play the game. They make a couple bucks, good for them. I'm just happy that people are figuring out ways to make money in this area. But, don't drive them out because that's the worst thing the community can do.
Absolutely. Uh, Marcus, I really appreciate you being here and coming on. It's Sunday, day off, and I appreciate you taking so much time to talk and chit chat. And
No
uh,
problem, man.
it's really good having you.
Can I say one last thing?
Yep.
I just like I'll just say it. If in the 3-4 years or whatever that I've been in StarCraft 2, whether that's as a caster or a show host or even a lurker, if I have done anything to offend you, like truly and deeply offend you, like this is my sorry, my apology to you. Like all I've really wanted to do in StarCraft 2 was enjoy the game and make content that people would enjoy watching. And I really hope that no matter what, and even if that's not my role, that other people will continue to do that. I would say, like, from a content creator's perspective, that's a really hard role because you are held under an enormous amount of scrutiny. So for those new Chanmans that roll in, or for guys like Lycan and anyone else who is like really stepping up and making content in this community, like support them. It's totally worth it. But like my apologies to you. I hope that I can at least enjoy Legacy of the Void alongside the rest of you guys.
I think that's completely reasonable. I don't see why anyone else gonna would deny that apology if they even feel they need it. But I think from what we discussed earlier, no one should feel that an apology was needed. djWHEAT, thank you very much for your time, and
Thanks for having me, man.
not a problem. Have a good day.
Take care.